talk about finding your way in life or finding your purpose, a lot of people have this preconceived thought that a structured and balanced approach will guarantee success in what it is you're looking for, or success in how you will obtain said goal. But for the most part, those that are limitless in their creative thought and their attempts to do things that make them happy and their pursuit of happiness find out that that approach just isn't true. Sometimes what it is you're meant to do, what it is that makes you happy, ends up falling on your lap when you least expect it. Today, the Journeyman Chronicles gets to know Rok10 Productions and the man behind the production, Mr. Byron Morrison. Byron shares just hanging out with his friends, creating a band, not knowing what he's doing, but knowing that he enjoyed the camaraderie, ended up putting him on a course to be the owner of Rok10 Productions, an engineer at Rok10 Productions, to have so many different interactions and connections with different people in music and in life. All while doing this at a very young age, being able to have gone through so many different things where he's fortunate enough to be standing here right now, doing what he's doing and just embracing life for what it is. So let's get to know Byron Morrison, Rok10 Productions, and the man who simply just wants to live life with a smile on his face, enjoying good times with good people. This is Byron Morrison's journey, and these are
the Journeyman Chronicles.
Oh my goodness. Episode 28 is in full effect. Welcome back to the Journeyman Chronicles. You know my name. It is Felix C. Arroyo. C is for Christopher, but only my mama calls me that. No disrespect. Just please don't call me Christopher. I just put the C in there because I like the way it makes my name sound. Felix C. Arroyo. Yes, and these are the Journeyman Chronicles. We are getting to know different people throughout this podcast, which is exciting because that was the point from the very beginning. And today is no exception. I'm talking to Byron Morrison in this interview. Byron actually reached out to me, which I thought was dope as shit, because Byron also hosts a podcast called Earspace. He owns Rok10 Productions, and that is where he records his podcast, along with recording bands and other artists, even making music on his own. He's got a lot of stuff under his belt. Some of it he kept tucked away. He didn't give me everything, and I can understand it. Trust me. Byron's cool as shit, real laid back. I could just tell the creative mind can kind of recognize another creative mind, if that makes any sense. And some people just like to just sit back and observe. I know I'm like that, and I kind of felt like Byron was the same way, just real relaxed. There's no need to get all hyped up, but he's mad cool, loves to talk, has a lot of shit to talk about, loves to have good conversations, and his story and his journey was great to hear. So I'm happy to finally share that with you. Let's get to it. This was originally recorded Wednesday evening, April 20th at TCP Studio in Lancaster City. Now, here it is for you to listen to. Journeyman Chronicles, episode 28, Byron Morrison. Let's go.
But there's a couple things I want to talk about. First and foremost, music and production, Rok10 Productions, the whole owning your own production company. When did this come about? Because you're fairly young.
Yeah, so, I'm 28.
Yeah. So and when I'm looking online, you started Rok10 Productions in 2013, roughly. Is that right?
Yeah, like 2012, like officially, but actually 2013. Yeah.
Okay, so take me back then. This is 9-10 years ago. You're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind? Did you grow up in a musically inclined household, or were you always surrounded by?
My family's not really musical at all. I remember like vague memories of like my dad like singing when I was little, but not like, like playing the piano and doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah, when I was in 2008, 2009, I was in a like a screamo band.
Screamo.
Yeah, we were called
Is
Shatter.
this off of emo, or is this like
It kind of it was like kind of like deathcore.
Okay.
Or
okay.
like if you're familiar with like grindcore or like scream, like there's the genre of like real heavy rock where it's
Gotcha.
like just like guttural, like
Yeah.
bree,
Yeah,
you know what I
yep,
mean?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And yeah, so in like 2007, 2008, somewhere around then, a buddy of mine was in a band, and his fam was super into music, and they had a practice space at their house. And like I had no idea anything about music, wasn't classically trained, wasn't really practiced at anything, but I was like, I want to get girls, and like let's start a band. You know what I mean? It'll be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of those guys knew a lot more, what they were actually doing. But we played a bunch of local shows at the time. The Chameleon was like this awesome venue in Lancaster.
Yep.
Everyone was trying to get in there and
Absolutely.
stuff. We got to play there. I was really stoked.
was it packed? What was it like?
So we were on a like everyone's friends here bill, where it was like a metal band, a rapper, a country, or you know what I mean. It was so there was a lot of people there, but it was like whether they were digging what we were doing. Like we definitely brought people out. Like we were real nice with selling tickets and shit.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't know if like there were really a lot of people there like to see us specifically. Like during that time period in my life, we had an opportunity to record a record at the time with Grant McFarland and Carson Slovak, who have Atrium Audio over at Rock10 it's now. They had a studio over at 417 West Grand Street, which is where Rok10 is, where my studio's at. But back in the day, there was just one studio there. It was called Century, and that's where Grant and Carson were working at. I fell in love with being in a studio at like from being like around that shit, and then I can really get into it if you want, but a whole lot of other stuff happened.
Yeah. So you were already in the building, so to speak.
Yeah, it was, and then it was hilarious. Like when I years later, I was looking for studio space. A bunch of different things happened in between then and then, if you will.
Yeah.
That was in like 2014, 2015. I was looking online and I saw that address and I was like, no way. And it turns out they had actually like built out some more spaces in that building. So now there's like 2 studios up there.
Gotcha.
Myself and Triforce, who runs the studio that Grant and Carson had, and then there's some like practice spaces up there and whatnot.
What were you playing in your band?
So I played. I started out on the bass guitar.
Okay.
Because so like our one at the height of it, I think we had like 7 members. We had 3 vocalists, a drummer, 2 guitarists. Yeah, it was like 7, 8 people. I don't know, but
is that common for a band? Like that many people? Or
not for a metal band.
Yeah, you were just going all out.
Well, like we had a lot of ideas.
Okay.
And it was like a lot of like people not being able to commit to playing, and like I was always there, but I was like the least talented out of everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%. Some of those guys were like they shred. There's this kid Nate Lavender that was like a crazy guitarist, could play like any instrument. He would write all of our songs for us. And then we had at one point 2 or 3 vocalists and then a drummer, and the bassist, guitarist, and whatnot. It was wild, but I played the bass a little bit because it was the easiest thing that they could show me how to play.
Okay.
They'd be like, Byron, just play this.
Yeah.
Like really simple stuff.
Yeah.
And I would like learn that, and then I would just do that. That lasted for like a little bit. Because clearly I wasn't that good, and they went out and got an actual bassist.
Gotcha.
Shout out to Sergio Torres, that was the bassist for Shadow the Facade back then. They did that, and then I was playing like the synth, and I was just borrowing like somebody's keyboard, but then somehow or another it got like broken, and they kind of like kicked me out of the band and shit, and like, it was
salt water under the bridge.
But then I went back into it, and then it was just like a revolving like shit show, you know? But I'm still like real good friends with all those guys. I actually just saw Dalton Bowder on my way over here. He's in a real kick-ass band called Cave Paint. They should definitely check them out. Real psychedelic shit.
Absolutely. Cave Paint.
Yeah,
check them out. You said you weren't musically inclined and you didn't grow up in a household that had that's all good, that had music in it. So what was it about music for you besides the fact that you wanted to get the girls in the band? Something about music that you gravitated to, that you're doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, isn't it just that simple, I guess? Yeah, I mean, it was really just like trying to get girls, and then like I don't know, I always like it's weird. Like when I was like growing up, it was never like my friends weren't like, oh, I got the cool new shoes, or it's like I got the cool new song. Have you heard this song yet? You know what I mean? There was a lot of like coolness being derived from finding new music. You know what I mean? So I was like scouring the internet and finding all these like real crazy playlists and like wild remixes and stuff. And I started kind of like DJing, like just playing songs for people, making people mix CDs and shit like that. And like I had been doing that before and to kind of during the band. But then when I got into the band stuff, I just like fell in love with the time that we were in being in the studio, and was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like I had so much fun recording that album that it was like a light switch went off. And I was like, everything that I do for the next like 10 years is all going to be like trying to get me to where I want to be. You know what I mean?
Where did, because you're making beats.
Yeah.
And I listened to your beats, and there's nothing to joke about. They're good beats.
Yeah, I make a lot of weird shit.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like there's like a lo-fi vibe sometimes I'm listening to.
I learned a lot since like I started taking it seriously. You know what I mean? I still never really like took any like piano lessons or anything like that. Like I have a really good ear, so I can kind of sit down and like noodle around. Mm-hmm. But if you were to play a F minor 7 or whatever, I'd be like, I don't fucking know. You know,
you're just going off the ear.
Yeah. And like I have good rhythm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like at some point during all that, I got a like a little MPK Mini. Little keyboard with the drum pads. I was learning how to like mess around with like Fruity Loops and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And I just kind of like kept doing that for years until I actually like figured out how to like structure songs.
Have you always been into like that type of boom bap type vibe? I hear a lot of that when I'm listening to your beats, and there's a lot of sampled hip hop that sounds it's really dope shit.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man.
I mean, I listen to like all kinds of music, you know, but like if you were to look at like my recent Spotify playlist, it's like grindcore, crazy death metal shit, and like Big L and like Raekwon and like all like, you know, like older kind of like 90s boom bap chill vibe type stuff.
Absolutely.
Also some more like modern, you know, but still within that world, like Joey Badass and like Griselda and like Benny, you know, all the guys from Griselda.
Is that your lane of music?
That's what I like to listen to the most, personally. I also listen to like classical music and like weird meditation, psychedelic rock shit when I'm not at the studio, you know what I mean? But when I'm at the studio, like I'm working on who knows what kind of music, so.
You're using music a lot with everything that you're doing besides, I mean, I know you're working, but as far as like when you're driving, when you're cleaning, when you're doing, is music always involved in your life, or is there, or not as much? Yes
and no. I mean, it depends. Like, I guess it depends on like how long, like if I'm going on a really long drive, like I'll probably listen to podcasts. If I'm just like bopping down to the store real quick, like I oftentimes will listen to anything. It really depends too on like what's going on that week. Because like, for example, like 2 Saturdays ago, I had like a 10-hour day of like recording drums, and like I didn't want to listen to like any percussion that whole week. I was listening to like a lot of ambient stuff. I was listening to a lot of talk radio. I was like, I do not want to listen to like anyone playing the drums.
Someone came in and just recorded drums?
Yeah, so we were currently working with a bunch of different artists, but one of them is this band called the A-Knots. It's a punk group that they're from York. Yeah. They haven't put out a project since like 91 or something like that, and they got back together and they're doing a record with us. Yeah, and we had, you know, it's like 11 songs or something like that, so we just had like a full day of just the drums for everything.
And is that typical? You're doing the drums just one day, or?
I mean, it depends on how many songs there are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what kind of project it is, obviously, too. Yeah. Like, for the most part, we work, and I say we because I have another engineer that works for us, or works for me, or works at Rok10, however you want to say it. It's still weird for me to be like my first, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, big shout out to Ian Corneely. He's a great guy, drummer. He plays in a whole bunch of bands, Flapjack Jones and the Bender Bros, Split, whole bunch of stuff. But it depends on like what kind of music we're recording. For the longest time, I had been working with like just vocalists. Because when I first got into this world, I only had one microphone. Okay. And I was like, what can I record with one microphone? Vocalists.
Right.
And then I just like did that for so long that I made so many connections within that world, and like also just got really, really good at like vocal editing. So I'd say like a lot of people get in touch with me to just do vocals.
Okay, wow.
But we also do like full bands and, you know,
you got the space for obviously.
Like yeah.
How does that work? You mean, are they setting up the drum set and all? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'm really naive about. I've seen it done once, a long time ago.
Yeah. We'll do like, you know, multiple microphones on different elements of the drum kit and stuff. I think for The A-Nuts one, we did 12 mics on the drums.
Wow.
It was 2 on the kick, overheads, which is 2 stereo overheads, snare mic, toms, that's 2. So we're at 6 or 7. We had a hi-hat mic. There was a talkback mic that technically counts as 1.
Okay.
And then there was something else and something else. I don't remember.
Yeah, 12 mics. Damn.
Yeah. Just make sure we
Just
get
to
like
make
real
sure,
like
yeah.
full sound. You know what I mean? But normally breaking down like the different elements of the band, in my opinion, is ideal. Like,
Yeah.
I've recorded, singer-songwriters where like they're playing the guitar, like an acoustic guitar, and they're singing at the same time, and we have a couple mics on them, and we just record it like that, for sure. And you can definitely get like a vibe from that. But if it was completely up to me, I would always record each different element like by itself.
Yeah.
Even in like having them all playing at the same time, but like in spaced out enough. So
Yeah, because you got them all tracked out. You can adjust each one by.
Sorry, I went on a tangent answer. My bad.
No, I love it. It's when it comes to music, I'm always fascinated by different elements of music and music production, and the engineer is like the unspoken hero of what happens in the studio. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, obviously, the artist and the producer of said beat or the composer of the music, but the person that's making shit happen and making the sound right, and you don't hear about that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's pretty dope that you just kind of fell into this world and you loved it and you're all in.
Yeah.
And so here you are now, Rok10 Productions, 10 years. We're going on 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I've just been saying. I mean,
Yeah.
like technically it's like 9.5
Sure.
or it's 11 or like I don't really,
It's,
you know what I mean?
it's a good solid number.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be doing that, I mean, God, you're 28 years
Yeah,
old. So
yeah.
where do you, like, what's your goal? Are you just enjoying what you're doing and you're
Yeah.
writing it out, or do you have like an
Like the
idea
secret
of what
mission?
Are you trying to expand? Is it
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to like, not to be like, oh, I don't want to give away all the sauce or whatever.
No, I dig it.
There's just so many different things happening at the same time that I don't want to, commit to something until it's like for sure gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
But
like,
there are some things that are brilliant.
Yeah. Like the biggest one, I can't like super get into. It's more of like a location thing.
Sure.
We'll kind of hint at that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I love it. I love doing this, you
Yeah.
know. So like in that aspect of it, yeah, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. But overall, yeah, I mean, like with the podcast versus the studio and the beat stuff, and we're doing some like crazy shit with like Web3 stuff, and like there's a lot of like weird things going on at the same time, you know. But I'd say like my biggest goal is just to like, smile every day and make good music, you know.
Yeah. I dig it.
Yeah.
You mentioned Web3. Are you getting into the NFT world?
Yeah, well, I'm really fascinated by like the smart contract concept when it comes to like licensing music.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
dude.
that I actually had a really good call this morning with a buddy of mine that does stuff with like Crypto Cannabis Club.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. That whole world is like so foreign to me. I've been like trying to research as much as I can while still like, staying up to date on different music stuff and, personal life and whatever, on running a business.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to do some stuff in that world. I think with both Rok10 and Earspace.
There's just
Not
so much
100%
space.
sure with the podcast, but something.
Yeah, you would have to. I mean, just the fact that you have to.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much like I'm just like you said, I'm trying to get hip to it, but it's changing.
Yeah, right.
Really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get hip to it as much as possible, but at the same time, it's like, man, I got a life to live, and you really can get lost in this rabbit hole of like the NFT world, and I got like Gary V on my fucking headphones, pounding NFTs into my head.
Here comes, thank heaven, another enemy.
You brought up Earspace, so let's talk about the podcast because while listening to your podcast, I can't remember which one, but I remember hearing you kind of say something along the lines of like you weren't expecting to take it where it is now.
Yeah.
Talk about that for me.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I feel weird even talking about it on other people's podcasts, like that, like aspect of it.
Yeah.
But so I'll give you like the rundown, I guess, right? So I started it just kind of as like a fun thing that I was going to do. I was like, oh, I'll just start a podcast. Why not? You know, I have all these microphones and shit.
Yeah.
I have some time. I'll interview people. Maybe I'll put it out. Maybe I won't, whatever. And what I was doing was like I was kind of curating it more. Like the first 30 or 40 episodes were actually released in seasons. Now if you go to the feed, like they're all just there.
Yeah.
But if you listen to them, it's like, hey, what's up? Welcome to season 3, episode whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So I was doing like, I would do 10 episodes. I would go out, I would find 10 people. And I sucked at it really bad. Like when I was first starting out, I'm just gonna be honest.
That's how it always is.
If you go back and listen to it, like it's embarrassing. Like I'm so naked on the mic, just or green on the mic, just like, you know, hi, my name's Byron. Like, what's your name and occupation? Like, you know, question answer type thing. But yeah, I didn't really like take it seriously. I was like, I'm never gonna make money off this. This is just a fun thing I'm gonna do. I'm still in like the back of my mind. I don't really want to monetize it.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like I went down that road already with like, especially like with making beats, where like it was something that I loved so much, and then I got money involved, and people started paying me for it, and I felt like weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it kind of changed how I was doing it, and I don't want to do that with the podcast because the podcast to me is like so authentic and like
it is
just, you know,
it's really
not
it's
thought
cool,
of,
dude. It's
you
like
know?
like people just chilling.
Yeah.
Whatever comes up, we just talk about
Yeah.
it. It's real low key and it's a low key vibe.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, like with that still being said, like we have really, really shitty, like shout out if you listen to the podcast, like some of our shit on Instagram or whatever. Like we have a horrible interaction with our fans and stuff. But the biggest thing is I don't push it at all.
Yeah.
Like I understand that Instagram is cool. Like we get a couple likes and people follow the shit or whatever, but like I really don't see any like turnaround from the people that are listening to the podcast, the people that are like going from Instagram to listen to it or whatever.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So I've never really like given that much of a shit about it, which I understand like for growth and for this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But mind you, that's all based on what I'm about to say. Like, I try really, really hard to like keep it kind of like shielded to be like, oh, like it's not like we're getting like millions and millions of streams and shit. But I recently got a statistic report, and we're like the top 10% out of all the podcasts, out of like 3 million some podcasts. So like a lot of people do listen to it. Like I hate to like put the stats out there a whole lot because it's like
something.
I feel like I get a lot of people that hit me up that are like, I want to promote this. Let me come on your show. And like I don't really want it to be like that.
Yeah.
Even though I do promote people's work and stuff like hardcore, like I've always wanted it to be like just random, like, hey, you know, nice to meet you. Let's talk. Oh, you do this thing? That's fine. We can promote that. Not like
just for the love.
You know, like, you know.
No, I dig it.
But I mean, I don't knock it. I don't knock promotion at all. You know, obviously.
I never really know who's listening, like until something like what you just said, or like, you know, somebody will kind of tell me like, hey, when's the next episode going on? Like, I didn't even know you were fucking listening to the episode because it's hard. It's hard in the social media,
right?
And trying to navigate that. Like, when we talk about wormholes, that's another one where it's just like, how can I plug it? How can I work this? How can I share it? How can I? And sometimes I'm just like, dude, I just want to fucking just make the podcast,
right?
And just kind of like
throw it out there.
Maybe just a little blip here and then, but you get the same 7 people that like it, and those are like ride or dies.
Yeah,
but the podcast. What I love about your podcast is that it's really, really a relaxing conversation. That it's an organic conversation that takes place in the moment. It's not like such a strict. Like you mentioned at the beginning, you had that very what's your name and what's your
right.
I can tell as it has evolved, it's not like that anymore. It's more like a shoot the shit. Do you have like when you're talking to somebody, do you have like a way to navigate through your conversation, or you just really just throwing shit out there?
Like when I first started it, my girlfriend and I wrote like 300 questions. And we were like, I'm going to have these 300 questions on like my phone or on an iPad or written down or whatever, and I'll just kind of like randomly go through them and ask them. That's how it first started out.
Okay.
There were some questions that like carried on throughout episodes after I stopped doing that because I felt like they always like yielded like an interesting answer. But otherwise, that for the most part, it's just in the moment. Like, hey, I don't know. Like one like conversation might go down a certain road, and then that makes me think of something else to ask. But like the biggest thing that I always try to do is like I try to do zero research on anybody. Because not to sound like pretentious or whatever, but I was always super confused about like you'd watch an interview and the host knows everything about the guest. And I know why they do it. Like if you do a lot of research, like you can ask like very specific questions to like get something out of somebody, right? That's why like all interviews are structured like that. It totally makes sense. But I was always like, well, why would you ask the questions if you already know the answer? Yeah. You know, like I just want it to be like a conversation between myself and the guest, and then like other people get to hear it, not like we're on a show. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I don't do video. Like, I've been kind of dabbling around with it. I did like, I'm not going to get into the super specifics because I'm not really sure like what's happening with it, but I hired a videographer. We filmed like 20 episodes. I went out and got some camera gear, started filming stuff. Quickly realized that like I could take, you know, my like basically like I don't edit the podcast at all. I just mix it. Yeah. So if I record for an hour, in like 30 minutes or whatever, the podcast is essentially ready to get uploaded. Gotcha. So an hour and 30 per episode time for me, I'm like, I can make that work. Yeah. But then I started like getting into like very, very light, like static shot video editing. And it was like, oh, this whole thing is going to take now like 4 hours or whatever. Plus like I'm shooting stuff in 4K and it's an hour long. And now I have like 60 gigabytes or whatever of data. And I have a lot of storage, but still like.
But that goes quick.
You know, on average, I make about like 3 terabytes of data every year. Maybe 3.5 of just like, because I keep all of my clients' data and stuff.
Yeah. How long do you keep it for? Forever?
Forever.
Really?
Yeah. There's some stuff that like I've gotten rid of over the years because I'm like, this person's like in jail or dead or like shit like that. But like if it's not like that, I'll keep everything.
Nice.
Just literally because of like one time I had an artist reach out to me years after I had worked with them and was like, hey, I need radio edits for these songs that we did. Like, do you still have the session files? And I was like, you know what, I do. And it was like, you know, really made his day and it worked out like great.
Sweet.
So I was like, oh yeah, like I should just never delete anyone's shit.
Yeah.
So I got it all.
One of the things that you do at the end of, towards the end of your interviews or podcasts, however you want to label them, is you start asking questions and you always ask like a, I don't want to say a dark question, but you always ask something that kind of provokes. Is that something that you're always doing?
I realized, I was like, dude, someone's going to call me out for this at some point. Like,
because I remember you saying something along the lines like, I like to ask all my guests this. And I'm like, this is actually pretty good because sometimes someone's not ready for that. And you kind of put them on that.
I'll be honest, like honestly, the question you're talking about for sure is like, what's the most emotional pain you've ever dealt with?
Yeah.
Yo, so like when I first started doing the podcast, one of Lindsay and I, my girlfriend and I that made the questions, we had a lot of questions that had like double sides to it. So one of them was like, what's the most physical pain you've ever been in? What's the most emotional pain you've ever been in? You know? And I asked people that shit, and like people would always have like physical, like, oh, I broke my leg one time, and sometimes it was a crazy story, and like that's interesting. But also like when people, anytime that the emotional pain thing came up, almost every single time I would immediately get to like see like directly into somebody's brain about some shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because like I try, if anything, like I try to like steer the conversation like as personal and as like real as possible, because I've always like had a knack for just kind of like talking to people and shit. And I'm not trying to like get stuff out of the guests, but I'm trying to like get to know them in like an hour. Yeah. And I find if you're like, hey, you know, what's your favorite color? Or like, hey, like tell me about like the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your entire life and like how you like moved on from that. Like it says a lot more about who you are as a person. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's like one question that keeps kind of like coming back. But like 30 episodes ago or something like that, I don't remember who it was specifically. I asked that question towards the end of the podcast after we had like a lovely conversation, and then they were just bummed as fuck for like the rest of the day, and like texted me and was like, "Yo, like, they were like, dude, I can't stop thinking about this shit. Like, you really like," because it was like a therapeutic moment for them, And I'm not
Okay.
a therapist.
Okay,
You know
so
what I mean?
It wasn't that bad.
No, but they weren't like stoked about it, you know? So then I was like, I should start asking people, I should start giving people the option. Be like, do you want to go in a super dark place or a super light
Yes,
place?
you do that.
And
Okay,
like
that
sometimes,
makes
and then
sense.
you know what I mean. Lights like, oh, you know, like lovey-dovey, beautiful shit or whatever. That's really the only like recurring, I'd say, like segment that's on the podcast. But like, I want to really like change it because like the people that listen to it like I almost like expect it's gonna happen now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But I like it though.
Yeah.
Because I like when you said engaging with people and people kind of open up more. That's like the whole gist of what I'm doing is like that allowing people to be vulnerable enough so that we can then connect because that's where people really start relating is like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I kind of had some fucked up shit that happened.
Yeah.
And when you hear somebody talk about it in a very vulnerable way, it allows for like growth. And I don't know, it's just I hate to say it's cool to listen to somebody else's shit, but it is therapeutic in a way.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate it when you do that because it's like you can have a great conversation, but now let's get, if you want to, let's get deep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I can relate to a lot of things that people talk about, and I'm sure you can as well. Has that always been like are your experiences in life pushing you to want to learn more about other people's experiences?
Yeah. I'll be 100%, dude. Like I've had a very, very weird life.
Very weird life.
Yeah, very weird. Like I grew up like middle class, chill family shit. Like not really a lot of like struggles and whatnot. Like it was pretty fucking easy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And like somewhere around the road, I don't know like what went on in my mind, but I was like, I'm gonna do bad things because it'll be fun. You know what I mean? Or like what? Really, I'll tell you what it was. Like I've told the story on the podcast before. Like I found out that when you turn 18. If you get arrested, like you have to go to like jail. And I was like, all right, well, before I'm 18, I'm going to break like every fucking crime that exists because like I won't get in trouble was like my thought process, which is fucking dumb as shit. And I was always hanging out with like older kids and like going out and doing dumb shit. And like for the span of like from when I was probably like 13 to like 23 was just like chaos of like me putting myself in like the worst case scenarios possible. I got involved with like a lot of like really dumb shit, both like through music and because of music, to a degree, and like drugs and wild shit. And, like I've had some like fucking crazy fun nights and some crazy scary nights and some all this like days and all this other crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
But I say that just because like I just go to work now. I make cool music and shit. Like I tell these funny stories on the podcast every once in a while, but I'm still trying to like figure out like all the weird shit that I went through, like, does other people do that shit, like younger kids and stuff, like, you know what I mean, or like what, you know what I mean, like, so like I try to get to know people and also see like what's going on with shit, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. I don't know, like,
you
know
mean
what I mean?
like what's going on with them or what's going on?
Yeah, just today with them in general, you know what I mean, because I'm still like so much of the weird shit that I did like back in the day still doesn't even seem like I don't know how I'm alive. You know what I mean? Okay. And I'm like, am I lucky, or is it just like, oh, you also did crazy shit like that, and you're alive? You know what I mean?
It does seem to be kind of like I was a sheltered kid, so when I looked at somebody like when you're talking about what you did, and it's always like, how am I still alive? I was the person that always like, yeah, how the hell are you still alive? That's amazing to me.
Yeah. Like like there was a lot of like fun times and a lot of like real bad times and shit, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
But like I had so many like weird like movie type nights and shit when I was in like high school. Like going out, I'm like linked up with these like crazy drug dealers that had like a ton of money and they were like doing all this like really cool lavish shit. And I was like 16 and was like, yeah, like hell yeah, like fucking rock and roll. You know what I mean? Just like hanging out with these people and shit. And like had so many crazy parties and shit. Like I remember when I was like 15 or 16, I went to this party out in like Baltimore and there was like they were doing like tattoos live and shit. It was like some like baseball player's house or like all this just like weird shit
you
like
see
that.
Baseball player like what?
Yeah,
like in the big.
I don't know. And like I don't do sports. I don't know like sports, but the Orioles or some shit.
Orioles. Get out. So you're at a baseball player's house.
He wasn't there.
What are you doing at 15, 16 years old going to Baltimore? How does that even happen?
You just like know a friend that has a car. You know what I mean? I remember I used to have like like I would grab money and shit and do whatever I was doing I used to like sell wine and shit when I was a kid.
Holy shit.
Yeah, Naylor Gang, because the brand of wine was Naylor. And it was right around when like Wiz Khalifa was popping off.
Okay.
Taylor Gang, so we would call ourselves Naylor Gang. We'd sell fucking bottles of wine, water bottles of wine. I was a little young entrepreneur.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But I wasn't making a lot of money with it. So like I had like, a couple bucks or whatever, and I would go out and buy like cigarettes and then give them to my buddy, and he would drive me around and shit. How we got here,
but no, I love it because it's the young entrepreneurial life.
Yeah.
When you say something like I'm hanging around with drug dealers,
at
16 years old, when you say also that before I turned 18, was that always in the back of your mind during everything?
I didn't think I was.
Subconsciously, you felt like I might as well do this now. Because that's a movie script life. Like just a small little window you just gave me.
No, it's bad, bro. So to put it into perspective, like I hate to and trust like I'm to the camera to you or whatever. Like I'm not promoting this shit at all.
This is a organic conversation.
And it's great too though, because if anything, like I've always wanted to be like, hey, like if you're doing shit like this, like I know a lot of young kids that are making music now these days. They're like doing Percocets and shit, and I'm like, get your shit together, get your life together. Like I never was doing like Percocets, but like I was, I've tried pretty much all the drugs or whatever, and I made it out, and I'm doing like pretty well, So I'd hope that if anything, like a little bit of some of these stories and shit would be like, hey, like on my small scale party and like an adult when I was a teenager, like y'all could be okay, right? But like I didn't do the whole like hanging out with kids smoking pot thing, and then going out to parties and doing all that. Like unfortunately, like most of the kids that I grew up with are all dead now because of drugs and shit. And when I say most of, I mean like literally like out of 50 kids, maybe like 30 of them are dead.
Wow.
Which is insane. Like somebody just died like the other day, and I was just like, oh yeah, like that's wow,
Gotcha.
But when I look back, like before there was the kids that were like smoking weed and shit, like we would like strangle each other or like hold each other under like in like water, like pools to like pass out because we would like get us high. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was like those kind of kids who I was like hanging out with and shit.
I had friends that did that.
Fucking dumb. So dumb. But then it's funny when I look, it's not funny, but when I look back at it, it's like, wow, yeah, of course. Like we all like look at us like where we are now, for the most part.
Right.
But yeah, like I was kind of involved with like that, like fucking, let's send it all the way. And if, I didn't think I was going to like live until I was like 18. Okay. I was like, there was no way in my head.
You already had that.
I was like, dude, there's no way I'm going to make it to like 21. Like, are you kidding me?
Doing what you're
doing,
what I mean?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Cause I was like, I was doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
Sending it like real hard, which then was cool because by the time I was like 20, I was like, I'm kind of over this whole like party life and shit. I'm just gonna like make music and like hang out. And then I definitely like raged for a couple years. But by the time I was like 23, 24, definitely 24, I was like, I'm done with this shit. 100%. Like,
were you at that point meeting more people that maybe, because they always say, who you surround yourself with will predict your future.
Yeah.
Are you surrounding yourself with different people as Rok10 starting? That sounds about the same time.
Yeah, it is. It saved me, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like there was definitely like in the very beginning, like Rok10, we were like, I started with this other guy, Sawyer Klein, who I went to high school with, who I always say his name publicly. Like I got mad love for him. Like we did the shit together. But then like, I don't want to disparage his shit too much. We were young. We were doing a lot of dumb shit. I'll let you use your imagination on this to a degree.
Sure.
But, like, we were DJing, like, a lot of, like, raves, where, like, people do, like, ecstasy and stuff. Sure. And, like, we were, like, involved with all that stuff, and it kind of got, like, priorities were changed. Mm-hmm. And, I had a blast. It was, like, a year or two of, like, having a really good old time. But, like, shit comes to an end, and then I go off my own way and I start getting a little bit more serious about recording. I don't know whatever happened to Sawyer. I never saw him again. One day he just literally like wasn't there anymore.
Really? That's usually how life is, though.
You know?
People just come and go, and you have to kind of move on.
Yeah, but no, I mean like I say it on every other podcast platform. I don't do it on Earspace anymore because it's like gotten like cliche.
Yeah.
But like if you ever hear of Sawyer Klein, like tell him I said what up because like no one ever saw him again. Like I don't even know if he's alive. I like Google his name like every couple months and shit.
You look him up on
Can't
Facebook?
find anything.
Really?
He's a ghost.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I mean, especially in today's day and age, I can find.
Yeah,
him.
no, I know. I've paid for like services and shit, like to be like because
because you're concerned.
I was like, dude, this kid's dead. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, you know what I mean? What happened? Because I know, like, we were doing some dumb shit. But yeah, so I mean, we started out doing that, and then that relationship kind of broke apart, and I just went full in on the music and was like, I'm gonna spend all like my time doing this, and not to lie, I did make like a whole lot of friends and a whole lot of connections at that time, like within party scenes and promoters and musicians and like all that kind of shit. And I was already kind of tapped into that world anyways. But then, yeah, I mean, just like the focus of like being in the studio by myself, like trying to learn how to make beats for like a summer or whatever, like I kind of stepped away, like stopped hanging out with a lot of people. Yeah. And now, like, I just try to surround myself with like, engineers that I respect and that I think are better at me, and people that, start businesses and people that I can learn from and shit,
That's what you got to do, is surround yourself with people that you want to get to that level.
Yeah.
Where did Rok10, the name Rok10?
Dude, so I've been debating on like whether or not I should stop telling people this shit because it is kind of a cool name. Let me have this internal monologue with myself for a second.
Go for it. You don't have to share it if you don't want to, dude.
No, I don't know. I feel like, I have told the story of where it came from on some episode of Earspace. I don't know which one. Okay. So just go find it on there. I'll tell you off mic, but almost keep it. We'll keep it as a secret for the listeners out there.
Am I not to put that in when I do my intro? Do I not?
No. I'll tell you off air. You keep that between us.
Okay.
Because it's a dumb story.
Fair enough. Hey, whatever you want to do, brother.
Yeah, shout out Rok10, Rok10 Productions.
Yeah, no, I love it. It stands out. It's dope. It's like a logo within itself, just the spelling with the numbers. So that's why I asked. But yeah, man, I think what you're doing with Earspace and what it sounds like what you're doing with Rok10 Productions is phenomenal, because I can see, like, just getting to know you, especially today. Yeah, like there's a lot of upswing here with what you got coming along.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I love listening to the podcast. And are you, like, as far as music, do you make music now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk.
Yeah. So, like, Rok10 Productions is the umbrella company, if you will, right? Yeah. We record, we mix, we master, we do like corporate work, we do audio stuff. I do what's it called? Like consulting for other podcasts, all that other, like, that's all just like the business side of shit, right? Then there's Earspace, where I interview people, and that's just that whole thing. Then there's where I make beats, right? And I also do like production work for a variety of different things, right? So that's all, again, kind of more like the money shit. Like, artists buy instrumentals from me. People lease out instrumentals for like videos. I'm really trying to break into like the world of like AAA game development. Okay. But it's like real hard to get into that if you're not like tapped in with some good connections. So I'm trying to make those connections. Fair enough. Hit me up if you know any game developers out there or anything. But there's that, and then there's just like a solo stuff, like as a musician. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of songs that I make and like beats that I make and like full tracks that I make that like no one's heard before. And then there's a whole other side of everything that I do at the studio with my quote unquote free time. Yeah,
because you're busy, I'm sure.
Yeah. So like, I mean, on average, like, I work every day except for Thursdays. Thursday's my day off. And I'm normally there from like 8 to 11, pretty much every day.
When you're working like that, but you're loving what you're doing.
8 a.m. to 11 p.m. I should say that. Not 8 a.m. Like, I'm not there for 3 hours. Like, that would be shit work ethic. I work for 3 hours a day. I mean, hey, no. I mean, like, if you can work for only 3 hours a week or a day or whatever, like, good on you. I'm just a fucking maniac.
Yeah. Obsessive with it.
But yeah, for sure. I think you have to be.
Yeah. Well, no, I think if you love what you're doing,
Yeah.
it feels good to be obsessive.
Right,
about it,
right,
'cause
right.
You want to better it.
Right.
Um,
Right. But yeah, I like free time or whatever. I've been working on. So when I kind of went all over the place with like my journey or whatever, right?
I love it.
But like band, then DJing, from DJing, getting into recording and production, making my own beats, making electronic music. So I always wanted to be like a like Marshmallow or some shit. I was like, that'll be sick, right?
Yeah.
Because like I don't know how to play the bass, so I can figure out how to like make music with a keyboard or whatever,
Yeah.
right? From that then to like engineering, and then engineering like for real, and then like quitting my job at engineering like for real and doing that whole thing, to now like full circle. I have this album. It's all house music. It's 12 songs. I've been working on it for like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
I'm very happy to announce, I'll do it on your show,
Fair enough.
that it is done. It's called Breakfast with Strangers. I'm going to be releasing it probably at the end of the year this year.
Oh, really? Breakfast with Strangers.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. It's going to be part of a 3 series of albums that I'm going to release like as a solo artist.
Fair enough. This is the first of 3 at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, one's going to come out this year.
Okay.
The next one's going to come out at some point.
And it's going to be the same like what Breakfast of Strangers Volume 2? Or do you not? Have you not?
I know what they're going to be called.
Okay, so you're keeping that close to the
Yeah,
chest as
yeah.
well. Fair enough.
Yeah. There's the theme to it.
Okay.
But yeah. So I'm very excited about that. And then there's, like I do like I try to not overwork myself or like over stress myself out by just like throwing projects my way a whole lot. But there's 2 EPs that I'm working on, or technically 3 EPs that I'm working on right now, that are all like original instrumentation, working with like 1 or 2 specific artists, developing all their stuff for them, and then like recording all their stuff, mixing it for them, all that good shit. I have a 3-song EP with Veto Underrated that's coming out soon. We're just buttoning up one last song for that. I have an EP with Naibi Perez that's coming out at some point soon that's turning into more of like an actual album.
Sweet.
So I don't know when that's going to come out. And then I have another EP with Soul True and Nico Woods that we're hoping to be able to actually perform part of it live at the next 108 experience in July, I think is when that is. I'm not sure. I should know. I'm doing sound for it.
It's all good.
But
you got a lot of shit on your plate.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that's like where like the solo music stuff comes in.
Nice.
I'll play some shit then. I have a whole lot of stuff that no one's heard that's like real weird.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, I don't want to hold you up anymore.
Oh, you're good.
It's getting late, but I love talking about podcasts with you. I love talking about Rok10 with you.
Hell yeah, man.
It was nice to finally meet you. I look forward to continuing to interact with you, hopefully more in the future. I know I'm going to see you shortly here on your podcast.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So, again, thank you for stopping by, man. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to wrap this up. This is Byron Morrison and episode 28 of Journeyman Chronicles. Thank you, sir, for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's see this shit real quick. Check out Rok10productions.com. That's ROK10productions.com. You can also find us on Google Rok10 Productions, Earspace Podcast on Instagram. All that good stuff is on our website at Rok10productions.com. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you heard the man. Check out Rok10 Productions. Google it. Look it up on social media. They are doing great things. If you got a band, if you're an artist, you're a solo artist, you want to get some recording done, he's the guy. Okay, he's got the space, he's got the knowledge, and he's just a great dude. Had a good time talking with Byron. It was great to finally meet him. I'll be putting some links in the description of this episode to check out the website. Check out the beats that Byron's making. The background music that I played a couple times throughout this episode, those are beats produced by Byron. Rok10 Productions. Personally, as a cat that used to rap and loves hip-hop, I love the beats. So I would implore you, please, if you don't know this man, get hip to him and Rok10 Productions. Byron Morrison, thank you very much for stopping by the Journeyman Chronicles. I appreciate you all for checking out this episode and showing your support. The Journeyman Chronicles intro and outro theme music is produced by Soilo with Real Music and Film. And as always, remember, maintain focus and stay continuous through all 4 seasons. My name is Felix C. Arroyo, and these are the Journeyman Chronicles. Y'all be safe. Peace.